statewide debate and editorials and articles about the Senator Looney's bill on regionalizing school districts. Bob Duff and Kathy Austin also released some bills on school district regionalization. And those bills created, I think, a whole lot of buzz, what you often get from the opposition. And I think a lot of that opposition was based on misinformation and fear. And one of the things that we want to point out is our organization, which represents 168 of the 169 towns and cities, we think this is an important debate and an important discussion and one that should take place. And it's not one that we're entering into from a position of fear. I don't believe that when we meet with legislators that this conversation is about closing schools. I don't believe that the conversation was ever about laying off teachers. I don't believe that the conversation was ever about local school districts losing their local autonomy. I think that those were points, nor do I believe that it was about busing kids. You hear all this stuff about we have to bus kids on these long bus rides. I think people who have made those points have either been not totally informed as to what this discussion is really about, or some people may have just done them for the purpose of trying to derail the conversation and to spread fear where fear I don't think is needed. For me and for our organization, that discussion is all about the back office services and the layer upon layer upon layer of additional bureaucracy that we have in the public education system. For me as a parent, personally, it's about money going into my kid's classroom and not going into layers of administration. You had mentioned earlier about me not living in Bethany anymore. I love Bethany. Bethany is a great community with incredibly good people. I moved there when I came to Connecticut, predominantly because of the school system and the Amity school system, hoping that I would be able to stay there and stay in that school system. But if you look structurally at Bethany, this isn't about the people or their government or anything else, it's about the structure that's created. Bethany is a community that has, 5,000 or so residents. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's a small community. They are structured in a way to potentially have 3 finance directors contributing to 1 budget. I think that's crazy when you have a structure that would allow for that. So Bethany consolidated with Orange and Woodbridge to create the Amity School District. But because the Amity School District is only the middle schools and the high schools, Bethany still has its own community school, which I think it should have. My kids went to that school and it's a great school with great teachers. But when you have that local community school that has its own Board of Education, can have its own curriculum directors, can have its own maintenance directors, while it's sharing a parking lot with the town hall, and its own finance directors. And then you also have the Amity school system. What you end up with is a little community like Bethany that has 2 superintendents in their budget in that one community. If that Bethany Board of Ed and that Amity Board of Ed both have a finance director, and the town hall has its own finance director, you have 3 finance directors in that little community. You could have potentially 3 maintenance directors, 1 in the town hall, 1 in the Board of Ed that shares the same parking lot in the same space as the town hall, and then the other in the regionalized school district. Those are the things that I think that this conversation was meant to look at. Does this make sense? Do all these different layers make sense? And it's not that we should give up our local control of our school systems. Now that I've moved to Guilford, and my children are in the Guilford school system, which is a great school system, if you come to me as a parent and say, we're going to force regionalization, and as part of that forced regionalization, we're going to close down your elementary school and your kid is now going to be bused to wherever, I'm going to have real issues and concerns with that as a parent. But if you come to me as a parent and say, you're going to keep your school, you're going to keep your teachers, you're going to keep the same path that you're on, but we really think that there's economies of scale if Guilford and Madison have the same superintendent instead of 2, as a parent, I'm going to say, yeah, that seems to make sense to me, and why do we have that?